Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the incredibly fascinating life of Thomas Sankara. Now, you've probably heard him referred to as the Che Guevara of Africa, but as we're going to see, Sankara walked a completely unique path. This was a leader whose policies were so visionary, they literally seemed to anticipate the world 40 years in the future. So we're going to unpack his rapid rise to power, his incredibly radical policies, and exactly why his legacy is suddenly more relevant right now than ever before. Right off the bat, to really understand Sankara, you just have to look at this one powerful conviction. He who feeds you controls you. This wasn't just some catchy political slogan for him, it was the absolute core of his philosophy. We're actually going to explore how this exact idea is forming the 2026 blueprint for food sovereignty across the new Africa. But to fully grasp how radical that is today, we first need to jump back to where it all started. Section 1. The Land of Upright People. So, picture this. It's 1983, and a charismatic 33-year-old military captain named Thomas Sankara takes power in a widely supported coup. And right from day one, his vision was, well, massive. He didn't just want to swap out the people in charge, he wanted to fundamentally decolonize the very mindset of his entire country. And he kicked off this mental decolonization immediately. He completely ditched the country's old French colonial name, Upper Volta, and replaced it with Burkina Faso. In the local languages, that beautifully translates to the land of upright people. It was this massive, instant signal to his citizens to basically stand tall and finally cast off the subservience of the whole colonial era. Moving right along to Section 2, 4 years of radical reform. Sankara definitely wasn't your typical 1980s leader. He genuinely viewed himself as a servant to the peasantry, and his 4 incredibly dense years in power were just an absolute whirlwind of rapid-fire success. The sheer scale of what he pulled off is just staggering. 10 million. Long before climate change was the global buzzword we know today, Sankara saw the environmental threat facing his country. So what did he do? He launched a massive program and successfully planted over 10 million trees to create a Great Green Wall, specifically designed to halt the harsh advance of the Sahara Desert. He was literally planting the seeds for a future he knew he might never even get to see. And beyond the environment, he was intensely focused on empowering people's minds. He rolled out this incredibly energetic literacy drive. And just look at this jump. The national literacy rate skyrocketed from a measly 13% all the way up to 73%, and he did that in just 4 years. He operated on this firm belief that an empowered, upright people absolutely had to be an educated people. Honestly, his reforms were just light years ahead of their time. Logistically, his government pulled off what the World Health Organization literally praised as a miracle, vaccinating 2.5 million kids against things like measles and yellow fever in a single week. Plus, he was a fierce champion for women's liberation in a society that really wasn't used to it yet. He outlawed female genital mutilation, forced marriages, and polygamy. He put women in high-ranking cabinet roles, and get this, he even organized a men's market day where men had to go do the grocery shopping just to experience the grueling daily labor that women usually faced. Which brings us to Section 3, rejecting the Western playbook. Now, if his domestic policies were radical, his foreign policy is where he really shook things up. Sankara initiated a total, uncompromising rejection of Western foreign aid. His goal was to prove, once and for all, that an African nation could thrive entirely on its own resources without any outside help. And if you want to see how this radical self-reliance played out in real life, just look at this comparison. While typical politicians of the era were riding around in absolute luxury, Sankara sold off the government's entire fleet of Mercedes-Benzes. He replaced them with the Renault 5, which was literally the cheapest car in the country at the time, and made that the official vehicle for his ministers. While others wore fancy imported European suits, he mandated that civil servants wear traditional tunics, woven from local cotton to boost their own textile industry. Oh, and he famously refused to use air conditioning in his office simply because the vast majority of his people didn't have it. Then came the 1987 Organization of African Unity Summit. He stood up and urged other African leaders to completely stop paying their foreign debts. He flat out told the world, the poor and hungry do not owe anything to the rich. He presented this incredibly neutral yet powerful case that international debt was essentially just a modern form of neocolonialism designed to keep developing nations completely subservient. Section 4. The High Price of Revolution. Now, as you can probably imagine, transforming a society from the ground up overnight is rarely a smooth ride. These fast, forced reforms really alienated powerful traditional tribal leaders and elements of the middle class, setting the stage for a pretty tragic downfall. Things escalated incredibly fast. On October 15, 1987, just 4 short years after taking power, Sankara was assassinated. The coup was actually led by his former best friend and top associate, Blaise Compaoré. Now, it's widely believed this had backing from foreign powers who were seriously threatened by Sankara's fierce independence. Compaoré ended up ruling for decades, but fast forward to 2022, and a military tribunal finally served some symbolic justice, officially convicting Compaoré in absentia for the murder. But honestly, the most telling detail of Sankara's entire life might just be what he left behind. When he died, his total worldly possessions consisted of a guitar, 4 bicycles, a broken refrigerator, and 3 old cars. That's it. For his supporters, this was the ultimate, undeniable proof of his dedication. He never once enriched himself at the expense of his country. Section 5. The Enduring 2026 Blueprint. So, where does that leave us today in 2026? Well, Sankara stands as this towering, almost mythical figure for the new Africa generation. If you travel across the continent today, you're going to see his face on murals and t-shirts everywhere, from Johannesburg to Dakar. And his ideas, they've evolved from mere history into active, modern policy templates, all anchored by that core belief: growing what you eat and eating what you grow. With global food prices fluctuating as aggressively as they are today, modern economists are actively revisiting Sankara's exact agricultural strategies. People are waking up to the fact that his vision of strict self-reliance might actually be the only true, sustainable path to African independence and food sovereignty. Which really leaves us pondering the ultimate question Sankara practically dared the whole world to answer. Are we upright because we stand on our own feet, or because someone else holds us up? As Africa navigates this completely new era of global influence, his life provides a lasting blueprint. And it proves that while you can certainly end a person's life, you can never, ever kill an idea. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will see you next time.